Okay, so Oksana Hera is going to talk about how to solve the puzzle of learners' needs, a talk that is a late addition to the second IATEFL online BESIG symposium. Oksana, over to you.
Thank you, Kirsten. Hello, everyone. As you see from the title, I do believe that behind every learner's needs, there is an element of the puzzle. And if you are an experienced business English trainer, you probably have your own way of defining these needs. At the same time, if you are just starting, you are probably looking for the best ways how to do it. And I would like to share my chapter of my business English training story with you. I'm based in Lviv, which is in Western Ukraine, and over the last decade, we've seen a very fast growth of IT industry in our area. Mostly it's IT outsourcing. And for sure, it's really promising both for the region and for the country in different aspects. Even though we have currently about 20,000 IT specialists, which is quite a lot, for us, we still see that companies are hunting for talents. And even though the technical background and knowledge of graduates is at a decent level, and we have the annual growth of about 25% in terms of specialists, only a third of them is ready to work in the market right after graduation. And one of the reasons is that they have quite a low level of English. When I say low, I mean active speaking production from them. So they are approximately at intermediate level, low intermediate, whereas the companies are most often looking for upper intermediate level of skills. Another issue is that employers having such high expectations are not always ready to offer a balanced approach to how they can tackle this gap and solve this problem. There's only a handful out of those 200 companies that have a clear vision of how these English skills can be incorporated in the growth of employees and how they can actually help employees to grow in the actual workplace. Another issue which is very important to my mind is that mostly if I get an individual client, they are usually looking for a tutor. And if companies are advertising to hire and employ someone to deal with English courses, they are mostly looking for an English teacher. So this also defines some view that people have about professionals in this area. So if there is an individual client, they are mostly looking for this very strange formulation or this very strange request sometimes, improve my English. And this request mostly is very general. So after the first question, why do you need it? What for? Is there any deadline? Is there any specific time limit to this? Or even how much time do you have to invest regularly in your own progress? It turns out that people haven't thought much of it, and they really need time and some guidance to give answers that can help the trainer to deal with this issue. Another interesting fact that corporate and learners' interests are quite often very different from each other. For instance, there is the company's expectation of the course, which is very often opposed to what learners see in it for themselves. In terms of companies, they often have a vague and contradictory idea about the delivery of those courses. For instance, some companies see English classes as a way of promoting lifelong hobby of learning a language. Others see it as a kind of perk for the most loyal employees. Others still see it as a bonus which can be given to learners from time to time so that they can enjoy some practice and improve in this way. But then, when the course is coming to an end, or even during this course, the employees feel that pressure from the company that they have to demonstrate the results and demonstrate their knowledge in the actual workplace, which is, to my mind, is not only confusing for trainees, but it even seems slightly unfair, because you can hardly expect anything of the learners, in this case employees, if you haven't stated the requirement openly at the very start of the course. As you've probably understood, I'm talking mostly about just-in-case courses commissioned by the companies and individuals. And just-in-time moments are really precious because, to my mind, they demonstrate in a more effective way the achievement of the learner and how they can most benefit from the whole learning experience. With such a situation, the teacher has to be ready to look by themselves for these magic just-in-time occasions, and often trainers have to go the extra mile, and it's really very interesting because even though if you do the needs analysis, it tends to be just the tip of the iceberg, because from my experience I get to know the real needs of my learners during the actual cooperation with them, when we can finally build this trustful relationship and they see that I'm really interested in helping them. So once when I was looking for the answer to this question of solving and finding the needs of my learners, I came across this quote, and it somehow helped me to realize that there was a solution, that the trainer has to put themselves in their client's shoes to make their problem their own, and then probably it will give some it will shed some light and help to get a clearer picture. So let me show you one of the cases. The following story is about a quality assurance engineer who approached me to prepare for a certificate exam. So this professional with about 5 years experience in the industry wanted to have some internationally recognized document that could prove her English level, not only to the current employer, but possibly to some other prospective employees. So the first thing that we did, we tried to define the skills which we had to test by that exam. Secondly, we started looking at the information that companies provide about what kind of certificates they actually recognize. So at the same time, we were defining if there was any time limit for the learner, because it was still really general. And it turned out that out of these three elements, the main issue was that we couldn't find any open information accessible to everyone on companies' websites that any type of international certificate could allow potential candidates to skip the stage of interview where their English skills were tested, or to have any advantage over other candidates. which turned into the following situation, that the learner decided it was no point investing time into this activity, and just decided to have a short brush-up course on speaking and listening in her professional context. The next story is about a learner who told me this phrase. And I'm sure it's no surprise for any teacher to hear something like that from a learner. But the situation was as follows. The company commissioned a general English course with the elements of business English training for groups of their employees. And in that group, there were 10 people according to the list. But in fact, on that Friday morning, there were just 2 people ready to learn and practice. And the lady who said this is a project coordinator with about 3 years of experience. And the group is currently learning at an advanced level, which does seem strange to me, because I was honestly slightly discouraged when I heard this, because we'd been having courses for about 6 months, and that was the first thing I heard when she was preparing for a call. So I thought that it was worth looking for some other reason behind this statement. It took me about 7 steps to get this positive answer from her, and it turned out that on that day, the CTO and other tech guys, so to say, were not at work, so she had to handle the call herself. She could easily explain this to me, but explaining it to the customers was not even necessary. They were aware of the fact. So we started looking for some other ways of dealing with the situation. And collecting requests and questions and then forwarding them to those technical guys seemed as one of the most effective solutions for that moment. But at the same time, I thought that it could have been beneficial for her to go through the agenda to elicit some possible questions and practice her answers. But at that point, she said, "Oh, that's fine, I'll be okay." And she, at that time, it was obvious that she didn't want any more guidance. So we just proceeded with some other tasks we had scheduled for that moment. The next story is a story with a software developer. So this is a young professional with some experience in the industry already, and he wanted to practice his speaking and listening skills specifically for conference calls with the customers. And there was a special request on working on the fact that he wanted to be more accurate and clearer, and he wanted to express ideas in a better and, so to say, more concise way. So the first thing we did, we identified the area of his expertise. Even though software developers share many common responsibilities in their workplace, it turned out that we had to take into account what type of company it was, because many companies which work in IT can be either product companies, outsourcing, outstaffing, and it may well influence the typical skills and the developers need for that particular position. So we identified these skills, then we profiled the customer, which was also very important for this situation, and we started training. Even though we were working regularly, I still felt that the learner was not progressing adequately, so to say. So at one point, we, outside the class, in an informal conversation, we were discussing some training issues, but in his language one, that is in Ukrainian. And I noticed that there was a slight difference in terms of speed of speech in language one and English. So at one point, I just asked, maybe it was worth trying to speak slightly slower. He agreed and accepted this suggestion, and he actually said that it was true that he even felt that himself, that he was often speaking quicker because he felt the pressure of giving immediate response to the customer, and he also felt some sort of very light stress because of switching to a foreign language in this professional situation. But at the same time, he was preparing to go on holiday somewhere where he could practice his English speaking skills, and we decided to practice this strategy of speaking slower in the safe environment without any customers, without project managers around. When we resumed the classes, I got a positive response from him that this strategy had worked in that safe environment. He also had the chance to try it out during some of his conversations at work. And after that, it was obvious that he didn't feel so much obliged to give the immediate answer. And he was fine taking some thinking time, and that really gave him some feeling of achievement at that stage of training and improved his performance in his own eyes. And another story, which I call What's My Role, is connected with the other learner who was present in that class with the project coordinator from one of our previous stories. As I mentioned, there were 2 out of 10 learners ready to practice their English during that in-company training. And as it often happens, learners like joking a lot about different professional issues in their classes when they feel more relaxed. And this particular employee always looks really relaxed, and people keep saying that you have nothing to worry, you are a team lead for a very small team and everything functions well there and you have no problems. And at that moment he said a very interesting thing. He said, I'm not really sure about my role on the project. It was slightly disturbing, and even though I understood that this was not so much a situation to be solved in English in that context, I could see that that was a very interesting moment, training moment, to give the 2 learners the possibility to share some knowledge. Because the other learner, as you probably remember, is a project coordinator, but on a different project from his. So we discussed the 3 questions, which you can see on the slide, and it turned out that in his team there were just 3 team members, and 2 of them worked mostly remotely, and he was always on site. So whenever management needed some update on the project, they addressed him. And whenever there was any task that had to be carried out either immediately or in some urgent situation, he was the one to complete those tasks without even anyone telling him that he was the one to do them. And I definitely had some suggestions and ideas of what to say and how to help him, but I thought I didn't really have the right to interfere with the company culture, because there was another representative of the same company, and his co-worker and his well, his co-worker and probably slightly a more experienced colleague. And in the end, the two of them came up with the following action plan. Talking to CEO, which was then changed to talking to his project coordinator first, just to keep the hierarchy. And there was another suggestion which was subversive in a way, just not to do the tasks, not openly assigned to him as a team lead. And if at some moment somebody comes up and says, why you are not doing this, because you have to do it, you are a team lead, that will clarify his role in the project. After a couple of classes, he shared the story that he solved this issue and he clarified the situation, but he opted for a different version of a solution, but still it was probably one of the moments when he gained that possibility of learning from a more experienced colleague, of gaining some advice in terms of how to behave and how to grow within the company. And he also practiced his English for a specific business English situation, which hopefully he will need in future, or hopefully not for the same reason. So whenever any of my customers or clients addresses me for some to have some classes, they mostly share this typical complaint. I have poor English, I need some speaking practice, and or even I just need to practice English grammar. And they always focus on these linguistic needs. At the same time, I try to focus and look for some extra linguistic factors, because quite often this is the lack of social and emotional skills generally. For instance, in that case with the team lead, who was not just prepared and didn't have enough support to raise the issue with the management. Or maybe that could be a cultural issue when some of the clients never responded or misinterpreted the response and the behavior during the business communication event. And it can also be the content knowledge, as in that case with the project coordinator, who was alone without the support of technical people. So what helps me to crack this puzzle is the combination of three keys. The first key is cooperation. In every class, I try to hand over the reins to my learners, which I have to admit is not always easy, because sometimes they can even call me a judge, because they think I have all the keys to all the activities I bring into the classroom, and that's why my word has to be final. That's why I try to show them that I'm just one of the members of their team, and we are working together towards the same goal. The second key is communication. What I'm trying to do is to ask meaningful questions, those that give learners the possibility of really opening up and sharing something about their context. And when I listen to these answers, I listen not only to hear the reply, but to understand and really to put myself into their shoes. And the third key is connection. It's very easy, if there is a wish, to stay in touch with your learners outside the classroom with the help of all the instant messaging services and social networks. It's really interesting to gain this insight into the problems they have during their everyday workplace communication when you are not there in the classroom with them. And if they can share this, it's beneficial both for them, because they gain this on-the-spot support from you, and at the same time you learn more about their experience and about their situation. And within the same key, there is the issue of developing a genuine interest in their work. The quote I was providing at the beginning from Rework was one from the books which my learners really liked a lot. I knew that, and I knew that they liked a TED Talk by one of the authors of this book, and it produced a very favorable impression and a very positive attitude from the learners. So I decided I had to learn this just to be in tune with their ideas. So by following these simple rules and having these 3 keys with me at all times, I'm really sure that I feel more confident as a trainer, and I can deliver better quality to my customers. So thank you so much for your attention, and be ready to experiment, and don't be afraid to try out new techniques and share your stories with everyone.